Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Esa Sofia Morote from John Jay College. We are here very excited in another exciting show of Graduate Power Public Management. And we have two invitees today. Of course, we have an alumni, Mr. James Foss, which he have a long title. His title is Vice President, Executive Talent Acquisition, Office of the CEO of JP Morgan, and we soon will ask him more questions. And we have our director, MPA PPO, Dr. Simone Martin Howard. How is everybody today? I hope you are enjoying Monday day. We are about to rock and roll Monday. So let's begin. Matthew Foss, could you please tell us about you, which year you finished, and what are you doing right now?
Sure. So thank you so much, everybody, for having me and for joining this conversation. So I was a graduate of the MPA program in December of 2020. So, which, as everybody here knows, that was in the heat of COVID. It definitely made a lot of challenges, but also opened up for a lot of on the uh, on the fly learning. Let's put it that way. I'm currently working at J.P. Morgan Chase as a vice president within HR. And human resources. Specifically, I'm in charge of executive talent acquisition. So I cover any executive director level role within talent acquisition within the office of the CFO. So any of our 5 lines of business, any executive director level role would be between myself and my colleague at the firm. So we cover across the United States.
That looks like a very interesting job. When you manage people, that's one of the most difficult job. So it is. You are located in New York City, correct?
Correct. I'm located in New York City. My role is actually an individual contributor role. We have the one plus or minus, I guess it depends upon the area of how you want to go with your career. You could be as a vice president, even executive director, as a people manager and have a team. Or depending upon your scope of work and the type of work that you do, you could also be an individual contributor, which I am.
Wow. Okay, so we'll ask you later, to tell us some tip for our future students who are about to
Sure.
graduate. Dr. Martin Howard, could you please tell us about you? I know you're the new director, so can you tell us your new role and what people can do to go to the MPA program?
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Morote. So, my name is Dr. Simone Martin Howard. I came on as an associate professor at John Jay last August of 2023. Prior to that, I was an assistant professor at LIU, which LIU Brooklyn campus, and I was in the Master's in Public and Health Administration program. So after 6 years, I came over to John Jay. Previous to my role as director, I was the Criminal Justice Management Coordinator for 1 year. And then I started my role as PPA director. So just for reference, there's 2 tracks within the MPA program. There's the public policy and administration side, which I direct. And then there's the inspection and oversight side, which Professor David Shapiro directs. My research interests are pretty interdisciplinary. I look at the intersection of public health and criminal justice, as well as maternal and child health, social equity, and health equity. And excuse me, and basically a lot of my research is qualitative in nature. I do a lot of interviews. I've done research in South Africa and Malta. I'm doing research currently in Trinidad and Tobago, where I'm originally from. And yeah, that's a little bit about myself.
Thank you very much. So I'm excited about that. I will tell something about me. I am also a professor in public management, and I teach research courses. I also teach non-for-profit performance, and I really enjoy it. And 4 years in John Jay, and enjoy so much my students, and I teach online, and I teach in person. My research is about leadership in public organizations. So just for people to know. So now let's talk about courses. So Matt, I would like to know if go back to your time that you were a student, you go back to your some years back. Do you remember which of the courses more impacted you in order to get the positions that you have, or professor? What do you remember of the college that it helps you to be the person who you are right now?
Sure. Thank you for asking that. So I remember very distinctively a couple of courses in particular. So there was one course that I had taken called Auditing the HR Department. And that course was taught by Professor Patricia Ararujo. I don't know if she's still here. I have not spoken with her in quite some time. But I remember there were actually a couple of classes that she had taught and I had taken, but that one class in particular, there are some things that I had learned that I still utilize today in speaking with different people internally as opposed to externally. But that was one course. And then there was another course, a budgeting course that was taught by one professor. And I'll get to how that course helped me in my current role a little bit later, and how if students were to take a course similar to that, how it could also set them up for some of the types of roles that we have here in the private sector at JP Morgan. Oh, you're on mute, Doctor.
Why you don't tell us right now? I'm curious now. What course? What?
Sure. So the budgeting course that I had taken with the professor's name escapes me right now. I do know he has since retired from John Jay. So one of the roles that we recruit for, or I recruit for, is a business manager role. Another type of role is financial planning and analysis. So if individuals take a course or several courses and then expand that knowledge, even if they don't have the practical experience on the job, but they have the educational component and they're applying to an entry-level role, let's say as an analyst or an associate, depending upon how much of that is involved, that's just one of the type of roles that somebody with an MPA can apply for and obtain at our firm.
Wow. So that there is a lot of probabilities and possibilities once you start learning. Dr. Martin Howard, could you tell us more about the courses that we have in the MPA program and the professors and the resources we have for the students?
Yes. So we have a lot of courses basically separated by concentration. Based on what you want to focus on. So for example, if you want to do budgeting, focus on HR, nonprofit management, and also if you want to do auditing, as Matt alluded to. So currently this semester, I'm teaching a class on assessments, audits, and investigations. And in the past, I've taught a class on fraud and waste and abuse in the healthcare system. And of course, you know, faculty tend to teach classes that are of interest to them if possible, right? But there's a plethora of classes that very distinguished faculty teach here at John Jay. Of course, more information is on our website, but you can take classes either online or in person in those concentrations that you're interested in. And we have about 27 full-time faculty, if I'm not mistaken, Dr. Morote, and then several adjunct faculty that are, you know, people who are practitioners in their field, so they have the experience, right? And I think what makes John Jay unique is that those individuals who are practitioners blend well with individuals who are academics, right? Because it's nice to get taught by someone who may have the academic background, right? They, as someone that has a doctorate, you've been in school for forever, which we were joking about before we started this conversation. But in addition, you have people who have actually been in the field. Like we have someone like Professor Shapiro, who's the director of the Inspection and Oversight Program, who was an FBI agent for a few years before he became a professor here at John Jay. And he does a lot of stuff with fraud and investigations, which are interesting. IO, Inspection and Oversight, tends to be a growing field. So, you know, we try to push both of those concentrations. And of course, you know, all the information, like I mentioned, is online, but that's just a quick overview of the classes and the concentrations that you can take.
That's very interesting. So we, as Dr. Martin Howard, we have two streams of MPA. It was MPA IO and MPA PPA. Matthew, you took which one? The PPA, Public Policy?
So I took the HR concentration. I don't remember
Yeah,
off the
HR.
top of my head which one that would have come
Yeah.
under. It's been
Mhm.
quite some time. But
Yeah.
maybe Dr. Howard, you can tell me which one that would have aligned under.
Yeah, the HR would be under the PPA.
Yeah.
Okay, it was the PPA.
So tell me, Matthew, do you remember some challenges that you have when you were a student? Do you took the classes online or in person?
So I started the degree in person, and then COVID hit, and it went to being online. We were all remote. There was no option at that time. Like I said, I graduated in December of 2020, so it was really um, in the heat of it. Unfortunately, I guess the only thing that or fortunately, I would say the only difficulty was the actual online learning for me, because I really am an in-class learner. I like to, speak with my colleagues, with the professor. There were many times that I would stay an hour after the class and just, have some conversation with the professor and a couple of other students that we were talking about, real life situations that we were able to attribute to what we were learning at the time. And that is what I really missed when we had to go fully online. And then the other, I'd say, issue or drawback of having online instruction was sometimes some of the professors weren't well versed on how to utilize technology, and we would miss a half an hour of the class to try to get everything working. And then the next class, everything would be really rushed through to get in whatever we missed. So those are the two major difficulties that I would say that I had personally.
Well, the good news is we don't have the difficulties anymore, since all the professors now are experts in all the Brightspace, Blackboard, and all of this. We learned. Now we are all experts. But that's
Fantastic.
good to know that we have 2020 was a struggle for a lot of people. So you just hitting the struggle.
Yeah.
What about Dr. Marty Cobra? Do you see there's other disadvantages or struggles that students can have well in the master program? Maybe time management, or what do you see?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think some challenges that students face, other than I think time management is huge. Unfortunately, a lot of uh, students that come into the program, they want to be in and out, right? They want to do it within 2 years. And that's something that you see across the nation. When I did my MPA, I did it at Syracuse, and they have like a 1 year program, and they're very unique in that they're I think the only university that has that 1 year program. But you literally go, you do the 42 credits or so. You start in the summer, you go summer, fall, winter, spring, summer. So it's nonstop, right? And you get it done in 1 year. Um, that program is built that way, but most programs, every other program is built in a 2 year situation. But of course, here in the city, most people, 97% of our students are part-time students. So what I think is a challenge, or what I think is something that students may face, is they want to complete it so fast. But if you're a part-time student, it's almost impossible to complete it in 2 years. Because if you're working full-time, most people might take 1 or 2 classes a semester, right? And maybe do a class in the summertime, but it's still going to take you about 2.5 years or more, right? So I would say if you're someone who wants to be in and out, time management is very important if you want to take more than 2 classes. I think another challenge that students may have is statistics. I think statistics is hard for most people unless that's something that is of interest and comes easy to you. I know for me, I do not like statistics, and hence why I'm a qualitative researcher. That's my thing, right? So I think that is a big challenge. And, we ensure the students have to have taken a statistics course. And if not, if they haven't taken a statistics upon enrollment, they have to enroll in a statistics class in John Jay, right, in order to continue into the program, because those kind of quantitative skills are very important, especially if you want to go into like a research field. So those to me would be the two challenges that people face.
So statistics is my favorite course.
I know.
I am luckily quantitative and then become qualitative later in life, but I love statistics. So I was thinking regarding the courses. Sorry, there's a person asking a question. This question is for Matt Fuse. He's asking, how long took you until you find a job after you graduated?
So I was employed throughout my entire time of going for the MPA. I did change jobs here and there, but because of the fact that we were in the heat of COVID. So I was at the same job the entire time I was in the MPA program until I accepted an offer afterwards with JP Morgan Chase.
Oh, okay. So going to JP Morgan was, so you were searching a job while you were doing a student?
So I was working full time, and then I also did the MPA.
Yeah, you were great. Okay, good. Now the other question is, what advices do you have for the students? That somebody's asking about the advices to get the job.
Sure. So what I say to everybody, the most important thing, it doesn't matter how much knowledge you have, if you don't have the connections and the relationships, you have nothing.
Yeah.
It is imperative when you are going for any type of job that you have that network, that someone, maybe a coach that you can speak to and ask them questions and, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? But really the networking and having people at different, if you're looking for a role in the private sector, then reach out to people on LinkedIn. Tell them, like I did when I had no experience, I had never worked in HR before. I started reaching out to high-level executives within talent acquisition, within HR, and asked them, I have seen that you have done really well in your career. Can you maybe have an informational interview with me for 15 minutes? I'd really like to understand, how you did so well. That will go a lot further than, let's say, if you send somebody a message saying, please help me find a job, because here you're showing that you're interested in them. And I have had the same thing happen to me now. People message me and they'll say, I've seen where you've gone in your career. Can we have an informational interview? And absolutely, I will do that anytime somebody sends me a message like that. I will say, if somebody sends me a message saying, oh, I really need your help, please find me a job, I will still try and help, but
Yeah.
somebody asking, how I got to where I am, in this way I can actually teach them. You're teaching the person better than just doing something for them. There's a big difference.
That's exactly right. It's relationships. So please, we do have activities in John Jay, so you can come. We have a conference. We have sometimes networking events. Please come, especially if you are an online student. So Dr. Martin Howard, actually online, they're asking me about the online classes. Is there pure online or not?
So that's a good question. So when students enroll, they basically check off in their application if they want to do the program online or if they want to do the program in person, right? There isn't really a lot of like back and forth. Like I think there's one time that you can switch. Like let's say if you signed up to say that you want to take it online, majority of your classes online, and then perhaps you realize that's not for you, and you decide to go to in person. That's possible. But let's say once you switch to in-person, you can't say, okay, I don't like this anymore. I want to go back to online, right? You can't go back and forth in that way. But I do know with the in-person component, there are several courses that are offered only online that you can take. I think it's like 3 or 4 classes that you can take that are online. But we have 2 academic advisors, Fatima and Melissa, who would give even more information about that. But I'm pretty sure it's just a few classes that you can take online. I think that's something that you really need to think about if you're interested in coming to John Jay, because like Matt said in the beginning, he was really more of an in-person type of individual, right? And a lot of students are like that, but because of COVID, that was, something that was out of his control. Thankfully for him, because he graduated in December of 2020, it was probably only in a semester and a half or so where, right, your classes were switched to online. So, thankful for that. But if you're a person who knows that you're more of an in-person student, then I would advise you to sign up for the in-person component and take the majority, I think it's like 80% of your classes in person.
All right, good. There is a comment here, I agree the in-class experience is great for social connections where taking remote classes require more discipline and time management. Okay, good. There is another comment here. It is, I signed up for the November section of Graduate Power as well. Oh, okay. Please let me know. Okay, so I will let you know when is the deadline. Okay, good. My other question here is, if you were in the position to hire new graduates, what skills, knowledge provided by the MPA program would you looking in a prospective new hire? That is a question for Matthew Foss.
Well, I will say that that is a question that will take quite a few minutes to answer because there is every type of role at JP Morgan that you could possibly imagine that you can attribute the MPA to. As Dr. Howard said, statistics. You can get a job in the statistical analysis group within JP Morgan, within economics, with finance. There's so many different roles. I will give you an example just from what I learned. In some of the classes, the audit, risk, controls. Now, JP Morgan is set up where we have audit, risk, controls in every single line of business. So it's not just one audit group, one controls, one compliance. You literally can specialize in anything that you want. If you have a background in risk or in compliance or in controls, but you really like finance, you can go into a finance group. If you really like HR, you could go into HR controls, risk, compliance, or audit. That's the benefit of working for such a large company. And literally, like I said, anything that you would possibly learn within the MPA, you can get a job in the private sector at JP Morgan. Because and we have a lot of people that do have MPAs. We have people that were in the private sector and then went to the public sector, or the public sector then went to the private sector. One of my clients worked in the Treasury for Timothy Geithner and was appointed by former President Obama. So this is just giving you an example of how there is a flow from one side to the other. So if anybody has even more specific questions regarding that, I'm happy to answer.
That's good. And then you can visit Matthew in his LinkedIn profile. You go Matthew Foss and you will find him. So let's have our last question is regarding our new students. Actually, last question for Dr. Martin Howard, and we'll have one question mark for Matthew Foss. For our new students, what will be the advice for a person who is interested in taking the MBA program? Sorry,
Okay.
MPA program.
Yeah, no, it's okay. So for students that are taking the MPA program, I want to kind of piggyback off of what the question was from Matt, because I think it also goes into what skills and knowledge, right, should be prioritized to someone if I was in the position to hire someone. And I think this also falls in line with the question you just asked me. I think in addition to hard skills, like knowing how to do budgets, knowing how to do statistics, knowing how to write a policy brief, which to me is very important because many people who get an MPA might go into the policy field. And it's very important to know how to write something, an executive summary, for example, that is short, concise, and to the point, and that gives an introduction to what you're discussing, but also recommendations, right? That's very important. Of course, writing skills are very important. But something that's not spoken about a lot is soft skills. And again, it's similar to what Matt talks about. It's the way that people, the way that you interact with people, right? Your personality. And it's also made me think about what Matt discussed with reaching out to someone with a question about an informational interview, because that's, to me, a definition of a soft skill. If you're able to reach out to someone and say, I just want to talk to you and pick your brain about the job that you currently have, but I'm not asking you for a job, people are going to respond to you a different kind of way, right? So I think those soft skills are very important. Knowing the right people is also very important. I want to agree with that as well. Other advice that I would give prospective students, make sure that you are very diligent with looking at what classes you want to take other than the other than the required courses. Make sure that the electives that you're taking are either going to give you the skill set that you need for the job that you currently have or for the job that you want to have upon graduation, right? I know, like I mentioned before, everybody wants to get in and out. To me, it doesn't behoove someone to just take a class because it's mildly interesting to them, because graduate work is totally different than undergraduate work, especially for people who have been out of school for quite some time and then come back to get a master's degree. I think it's important to make sure that you are very diligent with what courses you decide to take, and take some time to maybe do a little bit of background on the faculty that's teaching that course, right? Because you might be interested to know that they had 10 years experience working for HUD or 15 years experience working for the federal government. I think that's very important. So those are the main points of advice that I would give to prospective students that are considering entering into the MPA program, both the PPA and the IO side.
That's very important for both groups. So what you will tell me, Matthew Foss, for students who are not entering but leaving the MPA, what would be your advice for them?
I would say be very selective. Just as companies like JP Morgan are selective, be as selective. When you go for interviews, interview the hiring manager. We want to see that you're number one, not just trying to get any role, but that you're being very pragmatic and thoughtful about it. We want to see that, you're going to want to be here, but vice versa. We want make sure that it's for all parties involved. It's imperative that it's a fit. And please, anything that you do, come with questions when you go to an interview. We like to be challenged. There are many times I've challenged my own clients when I'm working with them. So we're also, in particular, and I could only speak about JP Morgan, we have an amazing culture. So any background that you may have, you will find somebody else or numerous other people here at this firm with a similar background. That's one thing that really makes me feel so great about working at this company. I really feel that it's an inclusive place. They care about how I feel, how I am. They ask how most people have met my husband. They ask, how's your husband doing? It's a genuine care and concern. It's sometimes there is, this preconceived notion that, it's a bank, they only care about one thing. And I can tell you, I have friends that work at other financial institutions. It is unfortunately for them that way a lot of the time, but it's not that way here at JP Morgan. So if you have any questions, by all means, send me a LinkedIn request. I'm always happy to speak to fellow John Jay students or people who have gone to John Jay, who are thinking to going to John Jay. So by all means, I'm here to ask and answer anything that you like.
Thank you very much. And we are here with Matthew Foss, VP in JP Morgan. So we are very proud of you, Matthew, and with our director, Simone Martin Howard, who is our newly director of MPA PPA. And welcome and everybody. Good night. And I hope you enjoy this conversation. And we have our emails and everything on connections. So anything, we are always here to answer. And goodbye. Thank you for being
here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.